Afternoon, and thank you for joining us today for AP Automation in 5 Easy Steps. Today we're going to be talking about part 2, which is the indexing step. And what we mean by indexing is the ability to not only bring a paper document and convert it to an electronic document, but assign some index values or attributes to it so that you can retrieve it and work with it later. So we're going to bring it in, and we have Mr. Paul Owens, one of our senior sales engineers, with us today. He's going to show you the actual software side of that. And we also have Christina Robbins with us, who is going to talk to you about the business case, the business reasons why you want to automate an AP specifically as it relates to the indexing steps. So, Christina?
Thank you, Sean. So to get started today, I want to begin with a question. And that question is, did you know that the average knowledge worker makes about $20 per hour? And that IOFM, the Institute for Finance and Management, estimates that about 70% of invoice processing costs are related to document handling and manual data entry. You're probably trying to figure out how to reduce that expense for your organization, and that's why you've joined us today. And so we're going to talk about some technologies that can help. We've boiled down AP to just 5 simple steps. And in today's session, we're going to talk about just the second step. I'll share an example of a real customer who's using indexing technology to support AP automation in their organization. And then as Sean mentioned, you'll also hear from Paul Owens, and he's going to give you a brief demo of indexing software so that you can see how it works and so that you'll know what to look for as you consider the various options that are available. So we covered the first step, scanning, a couple of weeks ago, and if you missed the live webinar, you can access a recording of that session at our website, which is www.digitechsystems.com. And just go to the accounts payable page. And then over the next few months, we'll have some additional webinars that cover the information relevant to each of the other steps. So just keep your eyes open for the email invitations for those events. At this point, you've gotten rid of your paper invoices by scanning them. And so you've got a bunch of digital invoice files. What are you going to do with them? Well, step 2 in automating AP is to index the new digital invoices so you can find them again using keyword search. Once scanned or ingested, digital invoices should be labeled with identifying information, which is also referred to as tags or metadata sometimes. How many have AP staff who hand key invoice information into accounting applications today? I think this is one of the reasons AP processing is so expensive and why so many companies are looking to make a switch to automation. Many available solutions include the ability for your staff to hand key this information. But eliminating that manual effort is critical during this step because paying employees to hand key data is so expensive. Some hints on what to look for in an indexing solution include: start with applications that will sort invoices into categories automatically. This is actually really cool to see, so you're going to want to hang around for Paul's demo of how this works. Essentially, it means that the staff who opens those paper invoices simply throws them all onto the scanner, and then the scanner software will identify things about the invoices that are similar in order to sort them into piles. Second, don't settle for applications that will not extract critical data for you, and then use it to automatically populate not only the indexes for each scanned document, but will also export that data into your accounting application. It simply doesn't make sense to eliminate manual data entry on the scanning side if you don't also eliminate it in the accounting application as much as possible. Your application should automatically extract any business information you choose, including invoice amount and date, vendor information, and even the line item details. Once scanned and indexed, invoice images are loaded into a document management application for management and retention. So critical capabilities to put on your shopping list include the ability to automatically classify invoices into categories without manually sorting them before scanning, and the extraction of invoice information to automatically populate those index values. Don't forget to ensure that the software you choose already includes the ability to export to your accounting application. You don't want to pay for or experience the hassle of developing a custom integration. So before we go on, and in the interest of full disclosure, I should spend a minute to let you know that 2 of these capabilities are not commonplace. While most scanning applications allow you to hand key index information, very few will categorize invoices and extract the data for you automatically. Digitech Systems released an artificial intelligence engine called PaperVision Forms Magic last fall, and it sits inside of our scanning software, PaperVision Capture. It is this AI engine that allows our application to do things that others cannot, including automatically classifying invoices during scanning and then extracting those invoice details we talked about to eliminate manual data entry. And I want to talk just a little bit about artificial intelligence and how it's beginning to impact the AP automation tools that are available for your use today. Though many still think of the computer on Star Trek that can answer Captain Kirk's questions or picture robot cops running amok, the algorithms classified as AI are beginning to enter practical business applications, and particularly those that help companies get control of information. Three key trends are converging to create an environment that makes AI computing an attractive area for research and development, resulting in these breakthrough business applications. So the first driver is this rapid increase in the amount of data. The explosion of data in all of its forms has consumers and businesses scrambling to find cost-effective solutions that enable them to intelligently find the critical data they need to make smart decisions. We hear about this a lot, and so I did some research to help you understand just how big is big data. IDC estimates that between 2009 and 2020, the data that we need to keep track of doubles in size every 2 years. So think about how many invoices your organization receives monthly today. Now assume that in 2018 you'll be getting twice as many, and by 2020 you'll receive 4 times more every single month. If this data growth were represented by the memory in a stack of tablets, in 2013 it would have reached about 2/3 of the way to the moon. But by 2020, we will have 6.6 stacks of tablets. 2, economic lessons that we learned during the recent Great Recession still linger in the minds of business decision makers, and they're affecting our hiring practices still today. So though our consumers demand ever greater process efficiency and cost savings, we work in an environment in which there are fewer bodies to do the work and more intense information security standards prevail. Here are the numbers. IDC explains that while data doubles in size every 2 years, our investment in IT will grow by only 40% between 2012 and 2020. That means that our investment will drop from about $2 to just 20 cents per gigabyte. We've all learned how to make do with fewer AP resources, and we know that technological breakthroughs are one of the things that make today's leaner organizations possible. And 3, until recently there simply wasn't enough computer power to allow developers to execute older theoretical AI algorithms, which then limited learning and progress. Did you know that since 2000, a $1,000 investment in computer hardware has grown from offering the brain power of a mouse to today being almost the equivalent of a single human brain? And by 2050, experts estimate that we'll actually be able to buy the composite brain power of the planet for that same $1,000 investment. These factors are strong enough that market research from Research and Markets estimates the market size for AI systems and enterprise applications will grow from about 202 million in 2015 to more than 11 billion by 2024, which makes it one of the fastest growing segments of any industry today. Quite simply, though we've been able to theorize AI processes in the past, these market developments now allow AI experts to build and test their ideas in the real world. They have access to huge amounts of data, thanks in part to the internet, and independent AI test labs can now afford the computing capability required to test and retest AI algorithms in order to hone and refine until they get the best results possible. So how does artificial intelligence fit into our story of AP automation? Well, these technologies can dramatically simplify the process of sorting AP documentation and can eliminate the expense associated with hand keying index values. So I'm going to tell you a real story to help you better understand how this works, and then Paul's going to show you what it looks like. AI is helping an ordinary small manufacturer to more quickly and accurately index their invoices as part of their automated AP process. Based in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, MSI Mold Builders produces manufacturing molds for customers in a variety of industries, including medical, automotive, and even recreation. And though they've used lean manufacturing techniques for years to produce high-quality molds, their AP processes were struggling to keep up with more than 1,200 monthly invoices. Mold Builders chose PaperVision Capture to address the AP challenge, and Capture included PaperVision Forms Magic, the AI engine I've mentioned. This engine ingests new invoices as they arrive, classifies them by type, and then extracts those critical accounting details, including invoice number and amount, and even the line items and totals, and also the vendor information. At Mold Builders, the system also sends invoices into an electronic process for payment, which results in a fully automated AP function. The organization has shortened time to payment with initial users of the system, reporting reduced invoice processing times by 75%. So ask yourself, how would your AP process be better if you could cut 3/4 of the time it's taking you to make payments? In addition, Mold Builders achieved a 90% classification accuracy rate, which means fewer errors and far less manual handling. And they lowered the processing cost per invoice from about $63 to less than $16, saving the company more than $676,000 annually. All of this was made possible by the AI Assist and the technology they chose to address the digitization of their AP. Invoices are active right away, the moment they're received, and that then streamlines their entire accounting function. So I'm going to turn things over to Paul so that he can show you how this stuff works.
Hello everyone. I'm going to show my screen now. This is trying to put things into context, some of the things that Christina and Sean talked about indexing. What we have here is an invoice, and on this side we'll have all this data that is on that invoice that needs to get from this piece of paper, or digital image in this case, into your accounting system. Well, I actually have a lot of those invoices in this batch, and what we're going to do is show you how we got from that piece of paper to the screen that you're looking at now, and then how few keystrokes it's going to take a person to do to make this work for your organization. And so we're going to go to that. We're going to show you how we did it. Christina mentioned Forms Magic. That's what we're going to look at, and we're going to look at it 2 steps of it. I'm going to show you where the real magic is in Forms Magic, and this is in our clustering engine. I will explain that in just a second, but first I'm going to pick a bunch of files, and as soon as I get there, there we go. Going to pick all of these. These are just traditional image files, scanned images, but we know that today a lot of people are getting invoices as an email attachment, which would probably come in as a PDF, so we'll throw in a bunch of those too. And now that I've got all of these disparate files displayed on the screen, I'm going to start the clustering process. Now, this is brand new technology, and we can say that with a very straight face because of patents that are pending on this specific technology. What we're doing right now is OCRing all of these pages, but it's like OCR on steroids. We're looking at the text on the page, but we're looking at it from 7 different perspectives. The words themselves, the spacing between the words and the fonts, from top to bottom, side to side, and diagonally. So what we're creating is what we call a multi-vector extraction, which is basically doing the same thing that facial recognition does in security systems. We're looking at each piece of paper, defining points of commonality to the next piece of paper, and then, hopefully, grouping all the like pieces of paper in together and to present them to us as, for lack of a better word, in a bucket, and then we tell it what it just saw. So these are documents that the system's never seen before, and it's trying to sort them out and put them into their individual perspectives so we can then tell the system what it has found. And you can see I've got 44 pages, and it actually put it into 13 separate buckets. So let's just look at this. Now, traditionally, when you're classifying a document, you would have, in older technology, you would say, look at this top left-hand corner, and if it says W4, this is a W-4, and come over here and pick that, and that piece of information, and you're done. But what happens if the document that you receive looks like this? Well, that classification is no longer up here. This is in exceptions. Exceptions cost you money. What if you had a document that suffered from the ultimate Pepsi syndrome? Or the classic example of the dog ate my homework. As you can see from these thumbnails, these are quite different images, and yet they really are all of the same document. That is where the magic in Forms Magic comes from, is the ability to do this. So let's look at some more. Here we have medical claims, and as you can see from the thumbnails on the right hand side, they all look the same except for this one, and a tenth of it is missing, usually the part that you would use to tell it that is a 1500, a CMS 1500. But Forms Magic identified it and grouped them all together. Now let's go forward. 2 invoices in this stack, obviously from the very same vendor. Another vendor, another vendor, another vendor, another vendor, and so on. So if I look at this, all I have to do at this point is tell it who this is from and tell it what type of form it is. And that would be an invoice. I then save this, and I can go on to the next step. In order to save time, I'm going to go into steps that I've already built, and that's right here. So I'm going into my forms management, and you can see we have content types. These are form types. You can have these built and defined for yourself for anything you want. We're going to start with invoices because that is our focus, and I'm going to pull up a list of invoices that I've already defined. Well, the first one I'm going to start with is a QuickBooks invoice, because the worst case scenario in this definition process is you would have to do what I'm about to do for every vendor. But as you're going to see, that's really not the case, because this version of QuickBooks, every invoice would look like this. So I go through here one time, say that's where my vendor number is. We've already classified it accurately. My PO number, my invoice amount, and all that things. And then I come down to this section here where the detail is. And this is where a lot of the data entry has to happen. Well, I'd say, let's look at the top line. There's the quantity, the description, the unit cost, and the line total. So what I want to do now is just draw a zone around this, because it's always going to be within that zone. And as soon as I draw that zone, I have extracted all of that data just that easily. Now, yes, this is a very simple form. So let's look at one that's a little bit more complex. Let's look at one that is still one page, but is variable in length of what can be on the page. Once again, it has classified it together and done what it needed. I can put in the vendor and the invoice amount and all of that. But on this one, this invoice amount, I'll make it a little easier to read, is going to vary up and down, as you can see, because you have this line item detail that you could have multiple lines. This document actually only has one line. So I have to process this just a little differently. Instead of doing a block around this one line, I do something just as easy. I say start with this line of detail, and you can see the words that it extracted here, so it will find it every time, and stop when you see this detail. Well, that means that I've got it set up for being variable length. I've got one other thing I need to do. Because this total is going to float up and down, I draw a box around the totals box, the total information here, and apply that anchor to the invoice amount. So it doesn't matter if that dollar amount is here or here, it's always going to find it. So there is a variable document. So let's go to the next real world example, and that would be a multi-page variable document. And let's look at this one. This is a 2-page document, page 1, page 2. Page 2 has that total block, has the total block that is opposite this. So we have that. I have to do 2 things extra to do a multiple page. Because I have detail on this page and on this page, I need to tell it what to ignore. And I do that by putting in a break footer, once again, just drawn with a mouse, and on the bottom of the first page, and on the top of the second page, I put in a break header. Now then, if I have done everything correctly, I should be able to test these documents and see what kind of extraction I get. So I'm going to pick those files again. Here we are. These are the invoices that we just set up. I'm going to pull them all in. I'm going to then actually start the test. Now, once again, we are OCRing the documents. We are running the Forms Magic classification engine on it to break them into what they are, and then we're extracting all of the data. Well, as you can see from here, I got all of that data, and I got all of this data. So if I actually make this big enough so you can actually see what I'm talking about, that would probably help. Here we go. So here you can see I've got all of this data is here, and it is all for every separate invoice. You can see how this is changing over here. Now, when I get down to the variable invoices, let's look at the one that was 3 pages. That was one line item. Whoops, one line item. You can see that I got the one line item and I got the total. But also in that batch, which I didn't define, because this is the one I defined, I have one that is 2 line items, and not only is it 2 line items, so one of the line items has 2 lines of description. As you can see, I got all of that. I even got the total, even though it moved. The same thing is true with the 3 line items of description. So you can see, just with my mouse, no custom coding, no elaborate setup, I just did a variable length. So let's look at the multi-pager. As you can see from this one, it is tough. Let me pull that all the way over. There we go. Not only is it multiple pages, but these are variable length lines of detail. And you can see I extracted all of that. If I go to the second page, you will see that there's my total from right at the bottom of the invoice. So just with a mouse and a couple of minutes, we set up single page fixed, single page variable, and multi-page variable invoices just that easily. Now then, why do we do this? We do this so we can come back to here. All of this data is what was extracted, but this is money. We don't want to just assume that it's all right. So we're going to put thresholds of confidence on what our OCR engine extracted. I have it defined as 95, 90, 85, and below. It is completely user definable. You can see here that I have a field here that is less, that's not green. So I can actually click this and it will take me right to that field, and you can see where everything is grown. Now this is good to be able to do this, all right? But what's even better is I can pull this up on this screen, or I can actually put that to another screen and look at all of the index data that we brought in. So if I click on that one, I see that is what the information is. Yeah, save the indexes. All right. If I look at that 300, it is 300. There's my flyout. Make it a little bigger. So that's good. If I look at this, good. It's exactly on the money. If I look at this one over here, it's right. But let's look at this one, because once again, this is real world. This is what you're going to run into. It has only an 85% confidence. Well, that 6 is supposed to be a 0. There's my first keystroke. So let's go on and we'll save that one. And we'll go on to here. Let's look at this red one. That means it's below 85. Well, it's actually right, 43.15. I'm good. So I can keep going down. I have this one is orange. It is 1. And this one is red. Why is it red? There is the invoice date did not come in. For whatever reason, I do not know why. So here are so we just fixed that one. So what I just did for this entire batch of documents, instead of keying all of this information from paper into the line of business system, I captured all of this and it took me 9 keystrokes. That is a huge labor savings, and that is where the return on investment comes from automating AP indexing. John?
Thank you, Paul, and thank you, Christina. Folks, if you have any questions on what you've seen here, feel free to either contact us through our website at www.digitechsystems.com or give us a call. Feel free to call us at 866-374-3569. Thank you again for joining our webinar. Keep your eyes peeled for our next step. You'll be seeing that in your email. Thank you.